So Donald Trump got a major loss today in the courts, and it has big ramifications for all the stuff he's trying to do. This is the headlines. Judge blocks Trump administration tactics in LA immigration raids. And basically, we're talking about racial profiling, which essentially they admitted to on national TV. Have a take a look at this.
Look, people need to understand, ICE officers and Border Patrol, they don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them. They just need the totality of the circumstances, right? They just got through the observation, you know, get articulable facts based on their location, their occupation, their physical appearance, their actions. Like a uniformed Border Patrol walks up.
Right, so he's just like, okay, we don't need probable cause, and he mentioned physical appearance. So again, we're talking racial profiling. That's why the judge stepped in. This is what it says. In the orders, the judge, Mam E. Frimpong of the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, directed agents to stop racial profiling in the course of seeking out immigrants and mandated that the federal government, which has deployed hundreds of agents from ICE, so Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and other agencies in Los Angeles County, ensure detainees have access to legal counsel. So stop racial profiling and make sure that people have can call a lawyer effectively. This is a quote here. What the federal government would have this court believe in the face of a mountain of evidence presented in this case is that none of this is actually happening, the judge wrote, right? She said that, quote, roving patrols without reasonable suspicion violated the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, and denying access to lawyers violated the Fifth Amendment. So basically, the stuff that Trump people are pulling with ICE is unconstitutional, which we probably already guessed on that stuff. But you do want the courts to weigh in on these things, of course, because that's what they're doing effectively. The Trump people are basically kidnapping people, shipping them off to Florida or Louisiana or whatever, and then sending them ultimately to El Salvador and things like that. Mayor Bass has been fighting this thing, and she has to say about this.
Angelinos, today we had an important victory at the court. So now there will be a restraining order. They won't just be able to drive through the streets and snatch people off the streets. We know that all of this has been about creating a sense of fear and terror in our community, but I'm hoping that this ruling will give people a sense of peace, that maybe they can leave home now, maybe they can go back to work, maybe they don't have to live in so much fear. We have to use every possible strategy available to us. Today it was a victory in the courts. I know it will be challenged, but still, we won today and we have to keep up the fight.
So, I mean, we'll see. And I've told you guys before, this will continue in the courts. Unfortunately, the Trump people keep trying to stretch what they can do and cannot do, right? I mean, and they're sort of like the do things first, you know, ask questions later, apologize later sort of thing, and it's sort of like burn down the house and maybe we'll rebuild it in sometime in the future. I think that's sort of the Trump strategy. But just know you're not alone if you feel like the world has gone mad and you feel gaslit every day. I just want to talk with you guys about this stuff in a rational way, what's happening. It is tough. I saw that members of our community live in the area to where these raids have been affecting. I used to live in LA myself, if you guys don't know, so I know exactly where this stuff is happening. And you know, before it was I saw the officers, or I guess called ICE agents, probably better to say, going through MacArthur Park and basically scaring away children. It's just not a good environment right now under Trump. And so this is actually a really important court ruling. Again, it's about racial profiling and access to lawyers. You also have this, and this is a result of FEMA defunding. You know, we have the National Weather Service being defunded. Basically, remember Trump and Musk came in, they wanted to fire as many people as possible. And this is some of the results of this. So this was the headlines. This is from, it says, ICE Barbies delayed a flood response caused FEMA to miss thousands of phone calls, which is awful. I mean, it's crazy, right? They act like we don't need this stuff. And I remember we were talking about before on the channel where they were using FEMA funds to build the thing in the alligator thing in Florida. And now they're basically cutting services that people need, right? So this is the kind of stuff that they need. And I try to just have same conversations with you guys, because I know sometimes we get MAGA people come in and watch the channel. You know, they want to get some news as well. And I think any rational person would be like, hey, if there are Americans in need, we shouldn't just leave them out to dry, right? I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. But that's what's happening under the Trump people. This is from New York Times. It says FEMA didn't answer thousands of calls from flood survivors, documents show. And this is a description of it because I want you guys to just understand it. Quote, put yourself in the shoes of a survivor, right? It's after the floods in Texas. You've lost everything. You're trying to find out what's insured and what's not. And you're navigating multiple aid programs. One of the most important services in disaster recovery is being able to call someone and walk through those processes and paperwork, right? I know that if you experience something like this or have family members that do, I mean, you know, I mean, everything that you own could just get wiped out, right? Your home is everything. It's really traumatic, and you just need someone just to help, need to call. Who do you call? And if no one's answering, it's and it's tough. And I guess even if services were down, we used to go door to door, but I guess the Trump people aren't doing that anymore. It says here, most people apply for FEMA aid by calling the disaster assistance line or visiting the agency's website, right? That's coming from a spokesperson who from FEMA who used to work under the Biden administration, Jeremy Edwards. He says here, the Trump administration last month ended, again, the Trump people ended their laying off people, right, et cetera, ended FEMA's longstanding practice of going door to door in disaster battered areas of help survivors apply for aid. So, and you got NOAA firing people who work in call centers, not renewing their contracts, that kind of stuff, and it's disastrous. So this is what it looks like when you start cutting these things, because we've been talking about the cuts for a while, but these are sort of the results that you see. Like when for example, I'll get another one. I've been keep hearing things of when people go to the Social Security offices, say they're just completely understaffed, and the staff there, have to overwork, and the long wait times, that kind of thing. And people are obviously very, very concerned about Social Security, especially like if a payment's delayed or something like that, and you want to, there's some sort of problem and you can't call because the line may be busy, right? And you go down there and there's too many people that all have the same problem. It's the same situation with this, like FEMA. Like the thing with government or any kind of leadership, you actually want it to be boring. You do not want it to be, this crazy TV show where there's this like nonstop chaos all the time, which is with the Trump and how they run things. But that's sort of where we are. And I try to talk with you guys of this stuff because I know it can be deeply frustrating. I also take a look at what they're saying at Fox News. I'm always curious. That's, the other side they say here. So for example, this is Charlie Kirk. He says, warns Republicans risk losing the White House in 2028 if they don't do this. Well, I personally think that the Republicans are going to get stomped in the midterms, but it doesn't mean you be complacent. You obviously still need to participate, get out and vote, be honest with your friends and stuff like that, especially, those that are independent, et cetera. Because, there'll be people on the fence. I understand if there's MAGA people around, maybe they live in Delulu land. I understand that. But I also understand too that the vast majority of people all have the same concerns. Now, what does Charlie Kirk think that the Republicans should do? And it's actually kind of interesting, which I want to talk with you about. So this is according to Charlie Kirk. So he's one of the MAGA people. He says the biggest threat to the Republican Party in 2028 is we do not deliver on our promises. Okay, what's that? Promise of home ownership, really, for the next generation. Okay. The youth vote didn't just vote for Donald Trump. Young voters put Donald Trump in the White House. So he's claiming that they ought to be pushing home ownership. And it's fascinating because if you watch a lot of these people's rhetoric, it's like, do you even understand what Trump is doing, right? If you're making enemies of Canada or making enemies of Mexico or whatever, like, or you're kicking out workers or scaring off workers that build homes. So how do you plan to do this kind of stuff, right? Or you're deregulating things and you're making it so that Wall Street controls yet more of the housing market. You're not looking out for the little guy. This is a big problem, right? And I would agree. I think homeownership is important for people. Doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone, because the U.S. is an interesting market since jobs can be all over the country. Sometimes a home will tie you down too much to one location, and it's hard to leave, right? Because if you want to advance your career, you got to go where the job is. So depending on everyone's circumstance is going to be different. But I'm just telling you guys this, that don't necessarily think you have to buy a home, but I don't think it's crazy for people to want to. 100%. I understand that. But all the policies that the Trump people are putting in place is actually driving costs up. The deficit, the national debt will hurt borrowing costs. That'll make it harder for people to get into loans. And, the other issue is as well is like when you deregulate, as again with the Trump people, you make it so more easier for corporations to, and I mentioned Wall Street, but more for corporations to control everything. So I want more competition. I don't want just necessarily just a few companies and a few landowners to control all of it. On top of that, I noticed something really interesting is that Charlie Kirk was sort of put juxtaposition to Mandami. And what they've been doing over at Fox News lately, they've been just attacking Mandami nonstop. He's the favorite.
This is 14th Street, in a city with the slowest buses in the country. It's an oasis of quick commutes. That's because in 2019, New York City made this into a busway. Most of the day, only buses, trucks, and emergency vehicles can travel along 14th Street. Cars making local trips can get to the curb and garages, but they have to turn off at the next available right. The results have been transformative. Bus speeds increased by up to 47%, ridership jumped by 30%, and crashes and injuries have plummeted. But here on 34th Street, buses crawl at an abysmal 3 miles an hour. That's slower than a tourist walks through Midtown. We love you. Please keep coming to visit New York City. 28,000 daily riders on crosstown buses are trapped by congestion, confusion, and chaos. So the Department of Transportation had a great idea. Let's bring the success of the 14th Street busway here. It's not a new proposal. Mayor Bloomberg first suggested it in 2008. And this summer, it was supposed to finally happen. 3 community boards voted overwhelmingly in favor. Elected officials are all on board. And then, Eric Adams pulled the plug. It's a familiar tale under this mayor. Time and again, he's interfered to delay, water down, or outright cancel street redesign projects that would make moving around our city safer, faster, and more enjoyable. Why does he do this? Did a donor give him a call? Was he feuding with a local elected official? With Eric Adams? You never really know. But this mismanagement is a big reason why the mayor is woefully behind on implementing the streets plan passed in 2019. That law mandated the city build at least 150 miles of new protected bus lanes between 2022 and 2026. 30 miles per year. And what's Adams averaging? Fewer than 8. Speeding up buses isn't complicated. It doesn't cost much. You don't need Albany. All the tools are in the power of City Hall. We just need a mayor who'll deliver for the more than 1 million New Yorkers who ride the bus every day. And that's exactly who I'll be.
So for me, when I see, Mandami Zoran's, talk and rhetoric, it's like, it doesn't sound crazy to me. like, hey, welcome to the rest of the developed world, USA, right? That's sort of what I want to see. And I wanted to put this out to you guys because if you travel to other places, like we were just, I keep mentioning France, I was so impressed with Paris because they dedicated like roads for bike lanes, for buses, for walking. There were cars certainly there in Paris, but it was like so easy to bike and walk around the city or take mass transit like subways, etc. And I think this is sort of how we need to, if you want to improve things in USA, say cost of living, is think outside the box. And this is even that crazy, in my opinion, like making it easier for buses. But for whatever reason, there are big corporations out there attacking Zoran so for example, Zoran says, hey, let's make housing affordable and we'll encourage people to build, affordable housing. Because right now, the way our system is, it's a market-based system where only luxury houses or those kind of things for high-income people are, Wall Street, it's like is more encouraged to build that kind of stuff because it's higher profit margins, right? That's sort of what this all focused is. It's more about, for our current culture and Republicans, it's all about profits and not necessarily about sustainability or equity, right? Making it fair for everyone. This is something that, again, I'm a big believer in mass transit, and just wanted to hear that there are other Americans out there who care about this stuff as well, and Zoran is one of them. So they're Fox News are trying to make him like the devil incarnate, but I'll let you guys be the judge. I think he's great, and that's my opinion on this. So I do appreciate your time, everyone, and I'll catch you all in the next video.